Injustice won't be tolerated. This perhaps is a universal message in almost every country, regardless of geopolitics, race, or ethnicity. But for the past 70 years, injustice is exactly what Palestinians have been dealing with. Millions upon millions of them have been ripped away from their homes, separated from their families, deported from their land, and killed by the Zionist regime. A fight that continues till this very day. Why is Palestine so important to Iran that despite all political pressure, the country has not given up hope to help Palestinians? How did the Palestinian-Israeli conflict become so complicated? And is there really a solution? I'll bring you the answer to all these questions, so don't go anywhere. A tumorous cancer is what Ayatollah Khomeini called Israel in the 70s, an expression that has been engraved in public minds ever since and has become a core of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The support for the Palestinians is not something that is being practiced only in Iran. If you look closely, the root of it goes back to what Islam promotes, and so does Iran's constitution.
The issue of Palestine has many dimensions and is important to the Islamic Republic of Iran from two perspectives. First and foremost are the humanitarian concerns that require immediate attention. Thousands of people have been oppressed and displaced from their homes. The second aspect involves the political situation and strategic position of Palestine. One of the significant ideas of the Islamic Revolution is to defend the oppressed people of Palestine. Part of our foreign policy is to support Hezbollah and help Palestinians fight the occupying Zionist regime.
I paid a visit to Sadegh Ramazani, the head of the Center for Palestinian Studies.
No matter which administration comes to power in Iran, the foreign policy towards the issue of Palestine will remain the same. I mean, this approach is not an arbitrary decision that changes within time in different administrations. It's a governmental issue. The existence of Zionist regime is a menace, not only to Palestine, but also to the entire world.
So I thought to check out what exactly the law had to say. Based on Article 3 of Iran's constitution, the country should try to completely eliminate imperialism and to prevent any foreign influence. Also based on Article 11, the government has been obligated to set its general policies in order to cultivate friendship and unity between all Muslims across the world. And then there is this. In 1991, the Iranian parliament passed a law called Law for the Support of the Islamic Revolution of the Palestinian People. Article 1 of this law says that the land of Palestine belongs to Palestinian nation. Also based on this law, any economic, commercial, or cultural relation with the companies related to Zionists all around the world should not be established. Iran's constitution leaves no room for confusion that the Palestinians are entitled to their lands.
The Islamic Republic of Iran never supports oppression, tyranny, and occupation by any countries in the world. This is in contrast with the ideals of Islam and the principles of humanity. No free, open-minded man will ever support the occupying Zionist regime, its atrocities and oppression of Palestinians. The United Nations has issued numerous resolutions confirming the occupation of the Palestinian territory. Many major international organizations and human rights centers condemn the actions of the Zionist regime.
Anti-Israeli sentiments have risen among people across the world over Tel Aviv's discriminatory policies in the occupied territories and toward the besieged Gaza Strip. Since 2015, more than 300 Palestinians alone have lost their lives at the hands of Israeli forces. This is just a small fraction of a big-scale conflict. Looking back in history, Palestine has not been the only country to see Iran's support when it comes to oppression and injustice. Let's take a look at South Africa, for example. During apartheid, when white minorities ruled the country from 1948 to 1994, Iran cut all political relations with the country, and Israel was one of South Africa's closest allies. Nelson Mandela, South Africa's anti-apartheid revolutionary leader, has praised Iran's policies towards injustice, especially when it comes to South Africa, on many occasions.
Less than a month after the Islamic Revolution in 1979, Iran immediately cut its ties with the apartheid regime of South Africa. Before the revolution, Iran's Shah, along with some Western countries and Israel, had good relations with that regime. Shah of Iran used to do business with them and export oil to South Africa. This was at a time, though, many countries in the world had severed ties with it because of a system of institutionalized or systematic racial segregation and discrimination in that country.
But I wanted to know more. From my research, Iran was not the only country on the map supporting Palestinians. So what sets the country apart from others when it comes to standing with this nation? One of the reasons could be the International Quds Day, founded by Imam Khomeini on August 7, 1979. 38 years have passed since the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and this day is still considered a legacy of the revolutionary leader. This dynamic step taken by Ayatollah Khomeini was meant to bring justice to the Palestinians and to bring unity among Muslims around the world. The last Friday of Ramadan, when Muslims are already united and fasting, was when Imam Khomeini called the world to become one, despite their religion or race, and stand together in support of Palestinians.
Quds Day, which is truly an everlasting legacy of Imam Khomeini, is commemorated yearly on the last Friday of Muslims' fasting month of Ramadan. Actually, he picked this month in which all Muslims, Shia or Sunni, are keeping fast to call attention to the fact that the issue of Palestine is the issue of Islam. It is not limited to only Arabs. On the last Friday of Ramadan, all Muslims from different backgrounds and cultures and from different countries worldwide hold rallies to show their support of the Palestinian people. In fact, the announcement of Quds Day by Imam Khomeini could change the way many political analysts used to look at the issue of Palestine as a purely ethnic issue.
On this day, hundreds of thousands of Iranians rally and stage their anti-Israel stands across the Islamic Republic of Iran. Imam Khomeini founded the Quds Day. How much do you think, after all these years from the Islamic Revolution of Iran, how much do you think this day has been able to influence the public mind in supporting the Palestinians?
What we've seen so far is that people from around the world, Muslims or non-Muslims, and human rights organizations, even in European countries, have welcomed Quds Day as a means of unity among people against the Zionist regime. People see it as a sacred day and hold rallies to show their support of the oppressed Palestinians until the complete liberation of the occupied territories of Palestine.
More and more people in the West, Britain, America, France, Germany, are increasingly aware of how the Palestinians have been suffering for decades now at the hands of the Israelis. And why is that? Because in 2017 we have alternative media outlets, for example Press TV, and we have social media, for instance Twitter and Facebook. And those two are challenges, serious challenges to Western mainstream media, because for decades people in Britain and in America simply were not told about what is happening to the Palestinians.
The support for Palestine among different nations has come a long way. Let's take a look at the Arab world, for example. Before Iran's support of the Palestinians, the issue was mainly a nationalistic matter among the Arabic countries. But after the Islamic Revolution of Iran, it became an Islamic one.
The argument that the Palestinian issue is an Arab issue is totally rejected. And in fact, Imam Khomeini initiated Quds Day to lay emphasis on the fact that the issue of Palestine is an issue of Islam, not a sectarian issue, not just a problem solely related to the people of Palestine. The land of Jerusalem is the first Qibla of Muslims and is highly revered by the Muslims worldwide.
Today, the Palestinian-Israeli issue is a subject of university courses, research papers, and more, as it has truly taken a global stance. It's not only limited to Iran or the Arab world or even the Middle East anymore. Parts of the Western world that might not necessarily have the best relations with Iran have taken interest in supporting the Palestinian nation.
As you see today, the number of people who are defending the rights of the Palestinian people is growing rapidly in many European countries. In countries such as Sweden or Norway, we witness that some non-governmental organizations and even governmental entities have boycotted Israeli products. This indicates a growing anger and hatred at the Zionist regime and their brutal behavior towards the oppressed Palestinians. All of this has made the situation pretty complicated and difficult for the occupying regime. Reverse immigration from the occupied territories of Palestine is growing fast and has become a serious challenge for the Israelis. The Jews who have come to Palestine from different parts of the world are now returning to their countries due to the persistence of resistance, lack of security, discrimination in the social classes, and the incompetence of the fake Zionist regime.
To better understand this issue, let's rewind the history to 1948. The termination of the British mandate over Palestine and Israeli declaration of independence sparked a full-scale war. Despite repeated attempts to end the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians, the conflict has been going on for almost 70 years. During this time, nations like the US and even the United Nations have tried to come up with different resolutions, such as the two-state resolution and peace talks, but no substantial results have been reached. The UN has proposed was the two-state solution. It's been going on for years, but the Israelis have been saying that it is the Palestinians' fault that we have not reached a solution indeed. We have not come to an agreement because they were indifferent, because they didn't care, or so forth. Why do you think that is? What is your take on that?
The Islamic Republic of Iran is skeptical of the two-state solution for the Israeli-Palestine conflict because we are well aware that the Zionist regime has got a greedy nature. I mean, they are never satisfied with what they have and they always want more. Right now, the Zionist settlement is well proof that the Israelis are actually devouring more lands of Palestine in a bid to have it all. But on the other side of the world, Palestinians don't have enough lands in their own country to build houses. People in Gaza lack basic human needs and necessities of a simple life. This blatant inequality doesn't allow a Palestinian citizen to even think of a two-state solution.
Looking through the history, I realized that in September 1993, Palestinians and Israelis came close to an agreement. The Oslo Agreement, signed between the Israeli regime and the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, on September 13, 1993, meant to bring the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to its end by means of territorial concessions. But the Israeli lack of commitment caused for this regional chaos to continue. But it didn't work. Since the Oslo Agreement, 15,000 Palestinian homes have been destroyed and 11,000 Palestinians were forced out of Jerusalem. And the number of Israeli settlements has actually doubled from 250,000 to 500,000 in 2013. And then came the blaming game. Until today, the Israelis blamed the Palestinians for being indifferent to a substantial solution. Why? Well, that might be because, based on what has been proposed by the White House, the two-state solution means that Israel gets to possess 21,000 square kilometers of the 27,000 square kilometers of Palestine, and Palestine get to possess only 6,000 square kilometers. Doesn't really seem like a fair deal, does it? As I dug more, I thought to myself, is having two states coexisting next to each other really the answer?
If an aggressor enters your home forcibly, naturally you won't allow him to live there. You will kick him out. Do you share your home with him? Do you agree to live in one room and give 2 rooms to the aggressor? Of course not. So the two-state solution is totally out of question, unthinkable. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been offering a rational solution for the Palestinian issue for many years, which is a public referendum. This is the best way to settle the conflict in a country where Muslims and Jews are living together. Iran believes that the people of Palestine have the right to decide for their own future.
And I think that the best way to do this is to give them the power back and for them to decide what they want. And a referendum, for me, is the only way forward. Now, when it comes to a two-state solution, you know, it's very tricky, and I think there's a lot of there's a desire to lie to the public by making it look as though it is actually a fair decision. But we have to be very careful. Two states, how would those two states, you know, be shaped? And, you know, what it actually means, you know, in terms of practicality. Because so far, I mean, Israel has eaten away at, you know, Palestinian land.
The 7 decades of occupation by the Zionist regime proves that Israelis do not believe in a political solution. Instead, they want to strengthen their position in the region through military measures and force. The support for Palestine pouring in from all over the world is closing the net on the Israelis more and more. Zionists are fully aware that the extension of this support means a big threat to their illegal Israeli settlements, economy, and more importantly, stability in the world. So, to resist, they have been fueling the regional conflicts by supporting Takfiri thoughts. They have also started resuming relations with more countries in the Arab world, like Qatar and Saudi Arabia.
Well, I think it's a very bad thing. I think that I think the world needs to have a stance of isolation and boycott, divestment, and sanctions against the state of Israel. And I think that more and more countries should cut their ties with Israel. But these Arab regimes, unfortunately, are not serving their own people for sure, turning their back against the Palestinian people, and maintaining a policy of relations with Israel, which is very short-sighted, probably based on personal greed.
The turnaround that we are witnessing today among some Arab states and their complete opposite stance towards the occupying of Palestine by the Zionist regime is a bitter truth. We even heard the news that some of the Zionist officials have recently announced that during the past 2 years, Saudis have not helped the Palestinian resistance even a penny. Saudi Arabia has betrayed Muslims and the cause of Palestine. But it never means that the rest of the Islamic world will turn their backs on the Palestinians. They will stand by them and help them until the liberation of the entire occupied territories.
We all know that Riyadh and Tel Aviv enjoyed very good relationships. In fact, you know, they are very similar, you know, in their belief. Wahhabism is very much structured like Zionism. It's based on the same idea of exclusion. I think personally that it's rather despicable to have Arab countries who claim, especially Saudi Arabia, to be the custodian of the two holy mosques and represent somehow Islam to some extent. Of course they don't, but this is what they're claiming to do. To then side with basically a fascist entity and an entity that is disappearing and genociding Palestinians and has done for decades.
I came across another interesting point. Although supporting Palestine has been Iran's priority for a very long time, at the same time it has not been an easy ride for the country over the years. Iran has been supporting a nation for almost 40 years with a predominantly Sunni and Christian population. This is when over 95% of Iranians are Shia. This didn't come without a cost for Ayatollah Khomeini at the time. But Imam Khomeini had a bigger picture in mind. This support was about justice, supporting the oppressed, and promoting peace and unity in the world.
The Committee to Support the Islamic Revolution in Palestine was formed after the Zionist regime set Al-Aqsa Mosque on fire in 1969. Different ministries such as the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Education cooperate with this committee. They have come together to address the issues of Palestine. For example, the Ministry of Health takes measures to treat the wounded Palestinians, or the Ministry of Education grants scholarships to young Palestinians.
With all the backing from Iran and different countries, it looks like there is no immediate solution for Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Every single resolution so far has failed. Part of it is because Israel has refused to stop the violation of international law and to stop the expansion of the illegal settlements. Iran believes that Palestinians should be able to decide their own fate through a referendum. Iran also believes that all Palestinians who have been forced out of their land should be able to return to their country.
I support any initiative by any government in the world which highlights the appalling plight of the Palestinians at the hands of the Israeli government. And it is a tragedy that so many people around the world are simply not aware of how the average Palestinian man and woman lives every single day of the year. They live in abject poverty, they live in abject squalor, and of course they are subjected to appalling treatment by the Israeli army and by the Israeli police force.
Well, that's it for another episode of Iran Today. I'm Elmira Jafari. Thank you so much for joining us. To find out the latest on what's happening in Iran, be sure to visit our Facebook page. And do tell us what you like to know more about Iran. Until next week, goodbye from Tehran.